Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Ultimate Wellness Group Transformation Tuesday. Got a special show for just you today. It's just about your questions, and I'm going to do the best I can to give you answers. Of course, we're going to start off with our weekly um, mainstream minute, and then I have just a brief commentary, and then we'll get right into your questions and answers. So, God say the same. We'll have a wonderful show and at least 50 plus minutes of just questions and answers. Sharon Crockett, thank you for coming in. So let's go ahead and ask the Creator for His blessings for all of us to have an open mind to receive new information. In addition, to take that information, apply it to our lives so that we can be on our health or healing journey. And I also ask personally for a blessing to remove my arrogance, my ego, and to be a vessel for you so that you can get the type of information that is news you can use. So let's get started today. Tracy Harris King, thank you for coming in. The first thing that I'd like to get to is the mainstream minute. And actually this week on MSN Health, I wanted to kind of just show what is typical about is that they mix a lot of good information mental to us and has been implemented in society's mind as if it's good because it comes from the medical community or for a food factory or for some specific person. And it's not always necessarily the truth. Alan Bowden, thank you for coming in. So they have this section here, which is 10 suggestions of good health habits, right? So the first one is your flu shot fear. And I have a fear of the flu shot, but it's not like I'm running in fear. It's a fear of what the flu shot is going to do to those who trust in a medical community that is really more about money than anything else. So flu shots have aluminum in them. Flu shots are, I mean, it really doesn't make any sense. A lot of people get the flu shot and then wind up with the flu. Their flu change every year because the flu has the ability to, of course, change itself due to just its normal ability to be able to change. And so every year the flu shot is a different strain. And your body is totally capable of taking care of that by itself. Although these people will make you think that that's not real. So take care of yourself correctly and you won't have to worry about getting a flu shot and getting all the poisons that are associated with it. If you get a chance one day, check out all the ingredients that are in flu shots. Next suggestion is your unpredictable schedule. Now, this is an excellent suggestion because they're talking about having a rhythm in your eating habits, having a rhythm in your sleeping habits. And that is absolutely, truly the best way to take care of your body. Sleep the same time every day, eat at the same time every day, because your body works on the same system that the earth rotates around the sun. It's like clockwork. You know, today you woke up, you look out the window at a particular time, and the sun was coming up. Tomorrow it's going to come up about that same time. The next day, very close. And our bodies should be taken care of in that same way. Very good suggestion. Shirley X and Aaliyah, thank you for coming in. Next, they have your fruit and veggie selections. And so in this, they're discussing, you know, fruits that are coming from other parts of the world and how they, you know, keep them ripe and all those type of things. And that is actually another great suggestion because you should have just as much confidence in the fruit that you can grow in your backyard or down the street or in your city or in your region than something that you can go to the store that you bought that came from Mexico or Hawaii or the Amazon or the Fiji Islands or India or Iraq or Afghanistan. These foods, I'm not saying are bad from if they're coming from these other countries, but you have to ask yourself, how do they get them all the way over here? And what do they use to preserve them? And are the nutrients going to last if you're buying them from places that are that far away? And so this suggests that you can freeze them. And I would agree that food that is frozen can still have some nutrients for you, but the best way to get food is from your local area where it's fresh and exactly what God wants in it. M1, thank you. And Latrice, thank you for coming in. So as you see, sometimes the mainstream media can give you some good information, but the honest truth is that it's so mixed up with other stuff. Sometimes it's hard for us to decipher through it all. So it talks about your gym workout, and it talks about just doing the workout and then sitting for the rest of the time. And that's something that I suggest all the time, is that we all improve the activity of our life. You go to Walmart, you go to Target, you go to the grocery store, you work on the second or third floor, take the steps, park way away from the building that you're walking to when you're going shopping. That increases the activity of your life. If you live in an apartment complex, or you live in a housing complex where you have to go to the little park or whatever to work out, don't drive there, walk there. Increase the activity of your life. Celeste, thank you for coming in. So another good example, that sometimes their information is good. So let's move on and see what else they got to say. It was 10 suggestions. Now this, it was for the sisters, your heels. Now we should be able to come to the conclusion that wearing heels is a vanity thing. And I don't necessarily mean that a woman that wears heels is all about vanity, but the whole perspective of wearing heels came from women trying to impress men. And so it's very bad for your health of your ankles, your calves, your knees, and your hips. It causes problems with all the joints that are in your legs. And so, if you don't know what problems could potentially happen with your heels, I suggest you do a little research, because although, of course, we as men like the way women's legs look when they wear the heels, but if we take it to a more spiritual place and a more civilized place, no woman nor man should be trying to look at the other sex as something as attractive. We should be looking at each other from the perspective of what we have between our ears and what we can offer each other. And so, of course, the whole heel thing comes from a more savage or a less than civilized type of society. So, the basis of this was a pretty good suggestion as well. It's not very healthy for women to wear heels, because at the end of the day, it's not the best thing. Nail biting. I'm not going to get into that because I thought the suggestions that they made in this was worthless. But actually, one point about this is that those of you who do bite your nails, or that have children that bite your nails, understand that everything that they touch has bacteria. Everything has some type of toxin or some dust or something on them. So putting your fingernails in your mouth on a regular basis is dirty, but I don't necessarily think it's going to cause that much of a problem. Your mouth is part of our immune system and how we take care of ourselves. So I don't think it's really that big. Shaolin Soldier, thank you for coming in. Peace, brother. Your sad desk lunch. I don't think that would had much information, so I'm going to pass that up. Your smoking habit. It talked about smoking being associated with having poor lung health, increasing your chances of getting infections like the flu and colds and things of that nature. Excellent suggestion. Those of you who think this is just about cigarettes, no, it's about those of you who are smoking blunts and smoking weed and all those type of things. You are damaging your cells as well. I know a lot of people think, oh, weed comes from the earth, so it's good for us. It actually is, but not when you smoke it. That's absolutely false information. So yes, good example about the smoke. Your unwashed bed sheets. It talked about dust mites and the other aspects of insects that can cause people who have allergies and asthma to have problems. That is very accurate information. Anybody who's ever looked at your house, you clean it one day, and a couple of days later, you come back and there's dust everywhere. And in dusty areas of the country, that can be bad really quickly. But most dust comes from hair, our shedding of our hair, of particles from the stuff that we have in our house, like the carpet and like draperies and sheets and all that kind of stuff, and insects, the little chafing that insects do with their exoskeleton, just like our skin, is part of what makes dust. So that is accurate information. We do get a lot of unwanted things in our sheets. Archie, Muhammad, and Jay Delay, thank y'all for coming in. So let's get to, I think it's the last one or the second last one. Lack of sleep. For all of you that burn the candles and don't like getting sleep, I'm here to tell you that your body cannot be at its peak without good sleep. It is extremely important for the healing, for the maintenance, and for good health to get good sleep. Now, the honest truth is that a lot of people don't have the ability to get as much sleep as they want. But you know within yourself that when you don't get enough sleep, you know you're irritable, you don't concentrate as well. And those are just surface examples of why you need sleep. At the end of the day, sleep is a major part of your good health. So please work on your sleeping habits. As we mentioned earlier, your body should be in a rhythm. You should be eating at the same time, sleeping at the same time, trying to exercise at the same time. You should try to do a lot of things at the same time because that's the most beneficial way for your body to work. Okay. So that is the mainstream minute for today. And just briefly, you are listening to Dr. Akili, a holistic physician, went to medical school, graduated, went to a residency program like every other doctor that you know in a hospital, urgent care center. Got disenfranchised with medicine because it wasn't giving me what it was that I thought I went into my career to do. And so the book How to Eat to Live by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which I'll be reading a short quote from in a few minutes, transformed everything that I do and produced a reality where I can help people on the healing journey versus what I learned in the medical school and residency program was more about treating people and the sustaining of sickness in all honesty. So my last comment before we get right into it is if you all notice, I have started doing shows in January, in the beginning of January this year. I've done quite a few shows, and you all notice that I have not come on here to sell you one thing. I haven't tried to promote you buying anything from me. If it's anything that I'm promoting from my perspective of making any money, it's a personal consultation, which is that's what I do. That's how I feed my family. So yes, that is part of my career. But selling you products, selling you things is not what I do. And I'm saying this because last week somebody shared my show and then put a website where you can go and buy products and, this kind of a marketing website. And I'm here to say that I don't want my shows associated with that type of industry. That's not why I come here and do this. And so I'm asking for people to respect that. And I'm asking for those of you who appreciate what I do and care about me to let me know if you see that. Because I don't want anybody associating me with something that I don't approve and haven't assessed. That to me is disrespectful to me. And it's also to a certain degree kind of like, riding in on somebody or using somebody and not allowing them to say yes or no. And that, that is one of probably what I would consider one of the most disrespectful things that a person can do. So I wanted to just say that. And then I'll say something real quick that I thought was very, very in congruence with what I'm saying, because, I don't try to charge people for what this man taught me. No, that would be usury, which is against what we are supposed to be doing. So just quickly, I know we want to get to the questions and answers, but just quickly. It says on page 74 of book 2, How to Eat to Live, there are many of my little black brothers who are hungry for offers and for leadership, and they commercialize on what you find me writing. They take my writings and put it into other aspects and add in and out of it and offer it up for a sale price because he does not want to do something for self. He wants to take everything that he can and commercialize on it. He is a thief and a robber under the disguise of putting out the teachings of the messenger. If I charge for some literature, it's because I want to get back what we put into it and put the profit to work to build a nation. But you are selfish, and this is why I do not give you any credit. Take this that I give to the people directly and do not add to it to try and make money. Allah God has already promised you money, but do not try to make money out of his word. There are people now who are trying to put some of their work copied from my work and with their own no good additions to it. Leave my teachings as it is. No wonder that Jesus had to run the money changers out of the synagogue. They who were turning it into a marketplace to sell their produces of this and that. You are doing the same. So I just wanted to read that because I thought that was very appropriate for what I am discussing. And I hope that we don't have to deal with that anymore because, I think it is right and appropriate for people to ask when they want to do something like that. So Sharon Crockett, to our first question, says, what do you suggest if having difficulty sleeping? Bedtime is the same. That's a great question. And it actually goes back to what we were talking about in a mainstream minute, and that is that a lot of people are doing bad habits when it comes to sleep. The first aspect of sleep that has to be understood by each person is that sleep is a rhythmic reality. When you first get tired and you lay down in the bed and you close your eyes, your body is trying to rhythmically put itself into first a phase that we call REM sleep, REM, rapid eye movement sleep, where your body is actually processing everything that we went on in that day. Your mind is literally going over like a real fast computing of everything that you went through in that day, and your eyes are moving. If you've ever watched a small child or an adult when they first fall asleep, you can see their eyes moving underneath their eyelids very quickly. And if you've ever had any animals, you watch animals do that when they fall asleep, and their paws are doing like this while and they're asleep because they do the same thing. And so the process of going through your day is putting things in your brain where they're supposed to be. Things that don't really matter. Like if you're driving down the street and you're looking forward, but you see all this stuff in your peripheral vision. That's in your brain. It's stored. But the likelihood is that you'll never need that. So it's not going to be put in the priority aspects of your brain. It will be put in the recesses of your brain. And if necessary, you can bring it up. But for the most part, things that are not necessary, we hardly ever go tap into that. And so that happens at first, and then you start falling into these deeper stages of sleep. Now, the things that affect that are noises, because anything that starts to tickle the senses causes you not to be able to go to sleep, right? If you start falling asleep and somebody comes and taps you and calls your name and you wake up, sometimes you get startled. Now you just had your sleep cycle interrupted. If it's not dark in the place where you sleep, your sleep can be interrupted. If you do caffeinated products, it can be interrupted. There's so many different things that can interrupt sleep. The bedroom should be a place for sleep and sex. I say that that's it. If you're going to read in your room, you should have somewhere to sit other than your bed. If you're watching television, you should have somewhere to sit other than your bed. The best thing to do is not watch television in your bedroom, because it starts to associate all these imagery and all this quick moving and lighted reality, and that becomes part of an expectation. And so you want your bedroom to be someplace that you go and your body starts to relax and you can sleep uninterrupted, and that rhythm starts to help improve the way you sleep. The other thing about sleep is that sometimes sleep is interrupted when we eat large meals prior to going to sleep, because there's a lot of digestion that has to go on. And you also can have a problem with sleep if you eat food, energy activating foods. And that's why when I suggest to people what their meal should be like, your fruit and your raw milk should be done like 45 minutes or an hour before your main course, because those are like activating type foods. They don't take a long time to digest, to get energy in your body pretty quickly. And sometimes if you do that type of stuff right before you go to bed, you can have energy and it won't allow you to go to sleep too well. So I hope I answered your question. Thank you for a great question. Lawrence says, does eczema mean a lack of certain nutrients or vitamins? No, actually, eczema is usually and I shouldn't say usually, eczema is always an example of the body trying to fight something that is causing it problems. Eczema can come from something on the outside of your skin, and sometimes eczema is because what we put on the inside of the body, and the body is trying to rid itself of it. So eczema is really just a thickening of skin cells. I think based on that, it's time for a quick picture. Skin layers. We have in typical skin about 10 layers. And sometimes in eczema, those layers of skin can duplicate to 20, 30, 40. When you start getting psoriasis, sometimes it's 100 times or 120 times thicker than normal skin. And that's why it looks like it does. It doesn't perform well. It itches. There's a lot of toxins in it. And so when we look at a picture of what skin looks like, you see all of those different parts of the skin, right? You got blood vessels in there. Part of that is a hypodermis. There's fat in there, dermis there. Then you got the epidermis. The epidermis is the one that has 10 layers. You got the hair follicle, the sweat gland. The connective tissue is what holds it all together. It's the fastest reproducing organ in the body, the skin. And so at the end of the day, it cleanses itself with the sweat. It cleanses itself by reproducing so quickly. A lot of you, when you take showers or baths and you use a white washcloth and you wipe yourself and you're like, dang, I'm dirty. Most of that is skin, because most of us don't do dirty type of work where we be that dirty. You take a bath or showers over and over again, right? After a week or so, a couple of weeks, you see all this brown film on your bathtub if it's white or even if it's other colors. That's most skin. That's how fast you're reproducing it. And so eczema is really just an extra growth of that epidermis layer, that top layer. And sometimes it can affect the dermis layer, which is right underneath there. And that gets thicker and thicker because of irritation from outside, like I said before, or things that you're putting inside that your body's trying to get away. So no, I don't believe it has anything to do with nutrients or vitamins. It most of the time has to do with irritants and chemicals that the skin is trying to rid from the body. And that thickness of the skin is that process of irritation that causes it to grow, and that really is trying to protect you. Okay. One question I got online was, for your next show, can you give your nutritional recommendation for people working in high radiation and toxic environments, such as TSA and airports and hospitals, and with the general public? That is actually an excellent question. That was from Hakeem Fulmore. Thank you for the wonderful question. So I did a program on the science of eating, which I think is important for you all to go back and listen to, so I don't have to go all back into what I think are the best foods. The second thing is that I also did one on detoxification, and it would be probably very good for you to check out that one too, because those are two programs that I think are essential for all of us that are looking for good health to try to practice on a regular basis. Now, every single one of you that's listening is in a toxic environment. The entire world is toxic. We have a very toxic environment no matter what part of the world you're in. But you need to find a way to grow your confidence in the fact that your body is absolutely capable of taking care of any toxin that comes in the body, right? We looked at before the periodic table of elements, right? And we said that the periodic table of elements are all the elements that are on the earth. It's all the elements that are in the earth. Everything on the periodic table is in your body. But of course, as we've said before, it's not that you need a lot of gold. It's not that you need a lot of silver, right? You don't need a lot of that in your body. But you do have to have some. And so if everything on the planet Earth is made by some of the substances that are on this table, because the way they make metal is just by taking some of these elements and mixing them together. The way they make certain poisons is about taking some of these things and putting them together. The way that they make some good things are by taking some of these elements and putting it together. But your body has the capability of dealing with everything on this periodic table. So you have to be confident in that if you feed your body the right type of foods, you give your body the right type of rest, which and in this case, I'm talking about rest as in fasting, your body has the capability of breaking down and taking everything out that comes in that's not supposed to be there. We just talked about the immune system the other day, right? The immune system is absolutely capable. The immune system was capable before you even knew what you were doing. And the immune system is capable when you get into a situation right now and you don't know what you're doing. Just had a question about eczema. Eczema is a result of the immune system. So if you work in TSA and you're exposed to that radiation every day, if you're a radiologist in the hospital and you're doing x-rays and MRIs and CT scans and you're exposed to all that radiation, if you have been exposed to radiation like from the tsunami and the nuclear reactors that were affected by that in Japan, that radiation is all in the water. It's in the fish. And those of you who eat seafood, it's higher in seafood. So you're being exposed to things every day, every single solitary day. Some of us work in environments that have a lot more poisons and a lot more toxins. Some of us are work in environments and live in environments that are less. But your duty is the same. If you know you work in a high radiation or a highly toxic environment, like in Houston, in the oil producing areas outside of Houston, you can smell the toxins in the air when you drive through those areas. So a person who lives in that area or works in that area, you should have extra days of fasting every month. People that live in Southern California, I fly into Southern California sometimes, and when you come over the mountains, you can see the whole bed of smog all over Southern California. People that live in Southern California should add extra fasting days. And as I always say, you have to be eating the right foods in order to prepare yourselves for a good fast. But when you do that, the more fasting, the more your body cleans out all those things and you don't have to worry about it. Now, when it comes actually to toxins, such as radiation and some of the other chemical things that we are exposed to, also discussed that in one of the previous programs in when I talked about the spirulina and the chlorella. I do believe that they are good as detoxifiers, so they can help pull a lot of that stuff out of our bodies. And when you look in the stool and you see the green stuff in the stool, you can rest assured that some of that green stuff in the stool grabbed some stuff out of your body and pulled it with it, because the green stuff in the stool means that you can't absorb it. So that's a way that you can not only deal with the extra toxicity, but also comfort yourself in knowing that you have the capability of still living healthily, no matter how toxic the environment. Now, all of us have to understand that if you get too many toxins, that's very bad, and of course we could all get killed by that. But I'm talking about the average everyday of us that are just trying to live our life. We're not being exposed to anything that's going to kill us right now. And if that is true, then you have to be very diligent, very dedicated to making sure that every day you try your best to do something to benefit your health. When you mess up and when you make your failures, when you give in to some of your weaknesses, just get yourself back on track. Don't get mad at yourself. Don't knock yourself down. We live in a very, very money driven, profit driven, trickery, lies mixed with truth. We live in that type of society. So don't get mad at yourself if you give in to a marketing ploy every once in a while. Just continue to fight and continue trying to go in the right direction. Continue trying to go the uphill climb in the right direction and not on the slippery slope, okay? And that's by making good decisions every day. Another excellent question. Okay, what is Shaolin Soldier? What would you consider a good first food for a baby? Age 6 months. The only food that I would suggest for a baby when they're first born, until they get to a place where they start to develop teeth and start looking like they're interested in the food that you're eating, is breast milk. That's it. So that means, just like I finished talking about on your health journey, a mother and a father should both be on a health journey before they even decide to produce a baby. If you're going to lay down and plan to have a child, part of that plan should be that we're going to eat healthy enough so that our sperm and our egg can be as pure as we can possibly get it. Once that baby is born, that mother has to continue that way, and the father should be continuing that to help sustain the mother's ability to do it. But that breast milk is completely incomparable. There's nothing that even comes close to breast milk. Breast milk changes from the first day. As that child gets older, that breast milk changes. And then as that child starts to develop teeth and start to be interested in what you are eating, our typical mind frame is go to Gerber's, go to this, or go to what we should be doing is processing the best foods that we eat. Now, no child that young should be eating any type of meat. I don't care what way you process that. The child doesn't have the ability to break that down. But if you were to take some navy beans that you cook for yourself, if they're not too spicy, and puree that, or puree some other soft foods that you have as good foods in your eating regimen, those would be the good things to start with. I suggest things like navy beans and raw milk for babies. Why? Because the fastest growing aspect of a child in the first life is their brain. The most important aspect of building a brain is amino acids and fats. The best amino acids and fats come from navy beans and raw milk. So those would be my first two suggestions. Outside of that, I would have to, if anybody has anything specific, and if your child has any specific problems, we'd have to discuss that specifically. But in general, that would be where I would start. If I had it to do all over again, I would not buy Gerber's or any of these other food corporations, because I have no idea what they did to produce that food and put it in that jar like they did. What kind of mass production did they do? What kind of stuff is in that food that I'm going to be giving to my child who doesn't even have a adequate immune system yet? No, I would do exactly what I just suggested. And so, as I learn, as I get better, I give you the information that I believe is the best. It's kind of amazing because the other day, some people might think, oh, that should just be in general. Yeah, well, I was talking to somebody just within the last couple of weeks who had a doctor for the last 15 years. And the doctor was in essence telling this person that, your health is bad and you're probably going to start declining. Your overall health is going to start declining and it just doesn't look good for you. And so the patient had just kind of, I guess for the first time since they had their relationship, kind of asked, well, you look pretty good, doc. What are you doing? And the doctor said, he made some type of comment like, oh, I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat, all that crazy food and meat and all that kind of stuff. And so the patient was like, man, you've been my doctor for 15 years and you've never suggested that maybe I should try a vegetarian lifestyle. And so, that to me is pretty typical of a lot of doctors, and especially some of these foreign doctors that wind up in places with a lot of poor people. I try to give you everything that I'm doing in my life and everything that I learned that is best for me. I'm not holding anything back. But unfortunately, there aren't a lot of people out there like that. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I'm thankful to all those who helped me get where I am so that I can be effective to help you. So, that's something that I think is very, very important. Michelle Muhammad, thank you for coming in. And she has a question. What are your thoughts on using coconut oil to cook with? I am personally 100% against using coconut in any form. Why do I say that? Again, this book is what changed my entire career and everything that I do. So I'll just read you real quickly the statement, and then it should make sense why I have the thoughts that I had. Where is it? 65. Okay, so on page 65 of book 1, he says, eat the white part of cabbage and cauliflower. Here's the statement. Stay off those peanuts, coconuts, and nuts, period. Now, I always use the example that if I tell my children to stay out of my room, period, then I don't care what you need or what's in my bathroom or what you think is in my room that you want. I said stay out of my room, period. That means don't come past the door. I believe that statement means that I shouldn't use any aspect of the coconut. Not the coconut to eat it, not on cake, not in a candy bar, not the oil nor the water. That's my take on that. And so that's why I don't do anything that's associated with coconut. Now, I know coconut is not digestible, but again, sometimes when somebody, meaning this man in this book, The Honorable Elijah Muhammad and How to Eat to Live, sometimes when you sit down and you listen to a person and they tell you 100 things and 97 of them have proven to be true and you can't question it and you've seen evidence that it is true, then the 3 things that you don't understand, you're going to go ahead and chalk it up and say that that man has given me enough evidence that I need to go ahead and follow him 100%. I can't explain why the coconut oil that people make and use on their hair and use in cooking and all that, nor the coconut water is not bad. I haven't done any personal research, although I plan to once I get the right equipment and all that. But as of today, I can't explain it in detail. But again, 97 out of 100 things that this man has said I have seen come true in my medical experience. And so he gets all the other 3%, because if you show me 97% success, I can go ahead and take the other 3 and chalk it up that you know what you're talking about. So that's my explanation on coconut. Tracy Harris King. What can one do if constantly clearing throat because of mucus? Excellent question. So if you're constantly clearing your throat because of mucus, that means that you have some sinus issues. That means your body is trying to cleanse itself. And to be honest with you, that probably is going to be something that you need to contact me personally for, because we probably need to go through some routines of trying to figure out what things you may be doing or exposed to that may be causing that. But that is sinus drainage into the back of your throat. You're continuing to try to clean it because it's draining down in the back of your throat, irritating your vocal cord. You probably get hoarse sometimes. Your voice probably has a little variations to it. Like sometimes when you all hear me talking and I talk for this whole hour, sometimes during that day I've talked, to other people for hours, or I've done other things where I'm talking for hours, and I get here and sometimes I get a little hoarse. I feel my mucus in my throat. It's also an aspect of overusing your voice. People who speak a lot, you hear them sometimes have to clear their voice while they're talking. And sometimes it feels like the sound of their voice kind of changes. That's because the vocal cords can be overused and they have to be worked on as well. The body is trying to fix a problem. So that will be my answer to that. All of you that have asked a question, please let me know if I answered it to your... did I answer your question, first of all? And did I give you enough information for you to be satisfied? Secondly, Carl Brown, thank you for coming in. And what about fermented foods? I don't believe in eating fermented foods. Trish Spoot, please, thank you for coming in. And I have to find it, so I'll give it out in another program. But this man in here talks about not eating stale, other than bread. He talks about not eating stale or rotten foods. So when it comes to sauerkraut and other foods like that they call fermented foods, I don't suggest them, because food serves its purpose when it is ripe. It's at its optimal level of producing and giving to us the nutrients that we need when they are ripe. And when the food starts to go past ripe and it starts to ferment, it starts to rot, then that food is starting to lose the ability to serve our nutrition, and it is now going into a phase where it starts to serve the soil, to put nutrients back into the soil as the circle of life continues itself. So no, I don't believe in fermented foods at all. I don't eat any, nor do I suggest them. And that again is based on what the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and How to Eat to Live. Aaliyah, what can cause frequent memory loss? Plenty things. First of all, we live in such a society with so many distractions and so many things that divert our attention. People who actually play video games, people who watch a lot of television, people who do a lot of stuff on the internet and work on computers all the time, just that radiation and the lighting and all of that can sometimes cause some variations in how we store our information and how our brains are being very efficient. Sometimes that can be it. Sometimes it can be the type of foods that we're eating. We're eating foods. There's so many foods out here that are toxic, and they actually are neurotoxic. The word neural meaning nerve or brain. Toxic, of course, causing toxicity, causing damage, sometimes actually destroying nerves. So sometimes the type of things that we're putting in our body, sometimes the toxins that we just talked about that we're exposed to. Head injuries can do that. Lack of sleep can cause memory loss. So there's so many different things that can cause memory loss. But I would say that for the majority of people, it is diversion of attention when you're trying to put some information in. For instance, sometimes when people are studying, let's say you're studying for a test or you're studying for a quiz or you're studying to learn some information. I want each of you to try this within yourself. Just say, okay, I have, two things that I need to learn for school, or two things that I need to learn for work, or two things that I'm trying to learn for myself. I'm just trying to read this 3-page thing to improve something in my own personal life. Notice how, if you turn the television off, turn your phone off, turn the radio off, get rid of all distractions, you sit down and you start trying to read this 3 pages, this 1 page, whatever you're trying to read, and your mind is going everywhere. You're thinking about what you did yesterday. You're thinking about what you want to do at the end of the day. You're thinking about what you're going to do tomorrow. Some of you single people are thinking about somebody that you like, that you think is beautiful. Some of you young people are thinking about whatever, this concert that's coming up, or the latest song that come up, or the Drake challenge. All of these type of things divert your attention from concentrating on what it is that you're trying to put into your brain. And so when you go back and you try to retrieve that information, your mind has the absolute capability of retrieving that information. But while you were reading it, your mind was more on the song, more on the woman, the man, the idea, the something, the distraction, than it was on what you're really trying to put in your brain. And so sometimes it's really not memory loss, it's diversion of attention. And you can't go back and grab that because you weren't focused enough. So we all have something to work on. It happens to me. Sometimes when I do my prayers, my mind is on multiple things while I'm trying to pray, but I'm trying to concentrate on words. Start back over, do it again. As I continue to practice, I try to meditate before my prayers. I try to meditate through my prayers and try to say, I'm going to stick with this. Sometimes I do really good. Sometimes I'll only have 1 or 2 distractions during a whole prayer. Sometimes I have 1,000. So we all have to start patterning and practicing. Like everything else in your life, you got to practice being focused. And the best way that I can suggest doing that is meditation. Take a little quiet time every day, preferably in the morning, because when you pray in the morning and meditate in the morning, you have just directed your thoughts for the rest of the day. No different than when you wake up in the morning and put on a song. Multiple times throughout that day, you'll be singing that song. It just pops up in your head in the middle of while you're doing whatever else you're doing. Well, if you get up and you pray and you start meditating on all the positive things that you want to do in your life, all the good things that are coming, how you want your life to be more positive, how you're going to start decreasing the negative. That's what's going to be on your mind, marinating on your mind all day long, and it'll keep coming back as thoughts. So it's something for us to practice. Great question, Aaliyah. Zena Hayes, thank you for coming in. Khalila Muhammad, thank you for coming in. Alila got another question. What are the different reasons a person may become dizzy and nauseous throughout the day? What are different reasons? The first ones I would think about would be dehydration and toxicity. Dehydration can cause dizziness. Nauseousness most of the time, and most of us, is caused by toxicity. Our bodies at night while we're asleep are trying to, of course, rid us of toxins. And a lot of times when you wake up in the morning, you start drinking water. A lot of people tell me I get nauseous. Yeah, actually is a good thing. We think of it as bad, but it's actually a process of ridding toxins from the body. So if you wake up in the morning and you drink water and it causes you to be nauseous, continue drinking until the nauseousness goes away because you just got rid of toxins. And it's going two things. It's either going to be urinated out or it's going to be defecated out. So those are both good things because you're actually improving the body. Another great question, Leah. Trish Smoot, thank you for coming in. Alan Bowden. How to Eat to Live is a part of the making of a God child. Absolutely. Couldn't say it better myself. Trish says, what about coconut water? I just covered that, my sister. Sean Reynolds, do you recommend chiropractic care? Absolutely. I believe, honestly, I believe I have a whole lot to learn about a lot of other modalities. When I graduated medical school, I thought all of that other stuff was garbage, and what I knew and what I just finished spending all that money and all that time learning was the best. But that, of course, no longer is my mentality. I believe that a lot of the things that I learned in medical school were good. I believe that the apprenticeship and the following of other people and the following of other ideologies are not good. But some of the basic information that I learned is very instrumental in me being able to even answer some of the questions and talk about some of the things in depth that I do. But chiropractic care is wonderful. You know, you hear a lot of people say, you know, when I hear people do that, y'all hear me, my pops. A lot of people say, oh, don't do that. You're going to make your arthritis work, or you're going to give yourself arthritis. Not true. All you're doing is taking a ligament, a tendon, and you're stretching it. Because the way we live life, those things can get tight. Just from toxicity, just from dehydration, just from normal wear and tear. And so when you go to a chiropractic, they are really just moving joints in a way that gives them more space and more freedom and stretches them and gives them more blood flow. Excellent, excellent modality for healing. Yes, sir. Absolutely love chiropractic care. I get it as often as I can. Tracy Harris, thank you. Lawrence, thank you, bro. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Shaolin Soldier, yes, thank you. Victor Price, how you doing, brother? Peace. Jeffrey Andrews, good evening to you too as well, my brother. How do you rebuild cartilage in joints? Well, the first thing that you have to do to rebuild cartilage in joints is to stop the type of activity that destroys joints. Dehydration would be number one. Number two, eating a lot of meat. Number three, doing the type of exercises that are very hard on joints. That's why I mentioned a while back that if you are exercising, the best places to exercise is dirt, grass, or a track. And when I say a track, I'm talking about like a track in some of these schools where they actually put the type of material underneath that track that actually absorbs some of the shock out into that track substance rather than going into your joints. People that run on concrete, people that run on asphalt, people that run on treadmills, people that run indoors on concrete, you are doing your joints a lot of damage. Meat and the byproducts of breaking down meat and the toxins that come with eating meat are very hard on joints. Not having enough water and not hydrating yourself correctly doesn't cleanse joints the way they should be cleansed. In between every joint, as we talked about before, is synovial fluid. A little bit of synovium. It's a little sack of water in between joints that keeps your joints from pounding each other. But as time goes on and you're not doing healthy things and doing a lot of things that are bad for joints, that starts to wear away, and then bone starts hitting on bone because the cartilage, which is all of you that have eaten chicken or seen chicken before, you see a chicken bone, a little gristle that we call on the end, that's just cartilage. Gristle on a chicken bone is cartilage in a human. Same thing. We just call it different things in different animals. Okay. So for specific help with that, of course, reach out to me. But those are the general answers on how. It is not an easy process because, of course, the cartilage of a joint is given nutrition by that synovial fluid, and the synovial fluid is made from the blood flow. So it is a slow process. It will not happen overnight, but I have seen a lot of people have a lot of success when we work together on trying to improve your cartilage. But, you know, a person has to be patient. A person has to be diligent, dedicated for long periods of time before you see cartilage improve. But I believe that's a better suggestion than knee replacement, hip replacement, or any of these other surgeries. But again, excellent question, my brother Jeffrey. Trish Smoot, are artichokes okay? To be honest with you, my answer to that would be I don't know, because I haven't done any research on artichoke yet. I eat artichoke sometimes, but I need to do, my actual plan is in a very short time frame to get the type of equipment with some other people that I'm going to be working with, and we're going to start breaking down food and evaluating the nutritional values for ourselves so that we can have some confidence in what we are suggesting to people. And Trish, that is an excellent question because I've always wondered that myself. I don't have any evidence one way or the other. I eat it because I grew up eating it and I like it. But as far as the nutritional value, I will have to answer that question once I get this equipment and we check it out. Okay, so I apologize, I can't answer that, but I'm being honest. Donita Lake, thank you for coming in. I don't understand what you're saying. Yeah, the NCE. Let me know what that means, please. Shaolin Soldier, are there certain foods that can cure? For example, I noticed that grapefruit is contraindicated when taking blood pressure meds. Is this because grapefruit will lower it on its own? Not by my understanding. My understanding is that grapefruit has the type of nutrients in it and the type of detoxification that it does in the body. Actually, it works on some of the systems in the liver and how it breaks down certain medications. And so if you eat grapefruit with certain type of blood pressure medicines, it actually will render that blood pressure medicine ineffective because the grapefruit assists in looking at that and saying, we don't want this, and getting rid of it. So that to me is a beautiful thing. That means the body with grapefruit is really a good detoxifier, like all the citrus fruits, the lemon, the lime, the orange, the grapefruit. Those are all excellent foods to put in the body, and then we call them astringents because astringents go when they find things and pull it out of the tissues. So that, to my understanding, is why grapefruit is contraindicated with certain blood pressure medicines. Now, to your question about lowering blood pressure, I think the right nutrition, how we've been talking, and of course specifically the program that we did on the science of eating. I don't think there's a problem in the body that won't improve when you start trying to take care of your body like that. So I can't really say any particular food that would help lower blood pressure, but I do believe that a person who is eating right and getting their nutrition, hydration, drinking water, exercise, rest right won't have high blood pressure for long. Another great question. Sean Reynolds, thank you. Trish Schmute, I want to try raw milk, but I'm afraid of the estrogen. I'm over 45. Well, that's a good question. That's a good point. First of all, I would say your age is irrelevant because I would expect you to live to 345. You're still very young. Secondly, you do not have to worry about the estrogen in the milk if you ask the correct questions. Was the cow pregnant before you started milking them? Are you using any steroids to keep the milk going? Do you use any soy grain that they eat? And are they allowed to just graze? And is the grass that they're eating pesticide, herbicide, and chemical fertilizer free? If you ask those questions, that milk is pretty safe. For anybody that thinks that they are lactose intolerant, that is a misconception. Lactase is in the milk. The enzymes to break down the milk is in the milk when you drink it, as long as you don't pasteurize and homogenize it. Those processes, pasteurization and homogenation, mostly homogenization, is what destroys milk. So I want to try milk. I think you should, Trish. I think you should, use the information that I'm giving to make sure you're choosing the right milk and then start trying it. And, it would probably be good for you to do some research on what extra estrogen and low estrogen can potentially do to you as a woman, and then be very, very, very strict and do a food diary and do a a diary on how you feel and the things that are going on with you, and that will tell you whether or not you're getting an estrogenic effect one way or the other when you drink the milk. But no, I don't think that the milk will cause you any problems with your estrogen, and definitely won't cause you a problem as young as you are. I think it would be a very good addition to what you're doing. So I hope I answered that question. Archie Muhammad, how can we be sure the body remains at the required hydration levels to maintain the balance of the body? By looking at your urine every time you go to the bathroom. If your urine is dark, if your urine burns, if your urine has a strong odor, those are signs that you are not drinking enough water, you haven't had enough hydration. And to be honest with you, for the first time in years, I had a problem. It was about 3 weeks ago. I like I told you all, I work out when it's hot. I don't like working out inside. I don't like working out when it's cool. I like working out and getting really hot. So I went and I worked out one day, and I thought I had enough water. And then I went out, and after my workout, I went and did something else out in the sun. So I was in the sun for a long period of time. All things said, I didn't have enough water. I went to the bathroom and it burned, and I knew it couldn't have been from any other reason. And I drank about 3 liters of water, and within probably an hour later, the burning had totally gone away, and my urine had returned to close to clear color. It was light yellow, but when it was burning, it was like dark orange. I hardly ever have that problem because I try to stay hydrated every day. So those are the signs. You keep your urine clear or light yellow. Light yellow is probably the best, because there was somebody that mentioned something one day in one of our programs that said that every time you urinate, you lose nutrients. Absolutely. You lose all of the stuff that you don't want, because that's the purpose of the kidney and makes urine, is to get rid of things that we don't want. But yes, you do lose some nutrients every time you urinate. But that's part of the process of keeping the body and the blood right. So that's a necessary reality. So those would be the answers to that question. Thank you for the good question. Jeffrey Andrews, thank you, my brother. Zena Hayes, sciatica pain, is that a result of poor eating or poor posture? Excuse me, mostly poor posture, lack of good exercise, lack of stretching. Sciatica is the biggest nerve that comes out of the sacral part of your spine. I think it might be good for me to show you a picture. Another good point. Man, y'all asked some good questions. I'm hoping that we're gonna get through tonight. What time is it? Oh my goodness, almost time to finish. So I'm not sure if we're gonna get through them, but okay. So here is a picture of how the sciatica nerve is formed. See on the picture in the middle, that's pretty self-explanatory. That's where the nerves come out of the lower back, and they produce a big old nerve that goes all the way down the leg. That's a lot of times if a person has sciatic pain, they're complaining of something down their butt, the back of their leg, their calf, their foot. And the problem is not in the butt, not in the leg, not in the calf, not in the foot. It's in the lower back. See that picture out on the right bottom? It shows that little red area. Well, when you have something irritating that nerve, it causes pain, but it's not in the leg, it's way up there in the back. That can be by posture, that can be picking up things wrong. The most common way I've seen sciatic problems are people that lift wrong. Your back is not made to lift. All of you who stand with your knees straight and you bend your back to pick up things, that is horrible. Think back at your children if you have children, or think back when you look at small children. When they bend down, what do? They put their butt almost on the ground. So they bend down with their legs. They're putting their butt down, squatting when they bend down and study. You never hear small children complain about back pain because they're doing healthy things. We become lazy. We become stiff because of our inactivity. Those are the type of things that cause sciatic pain. Excellent question, Zena Hayes. What we got here? Celeste, my sister has been suffering with ringing in the ears for about a month. Hearing is fine. MRI is fine. Any natural remedies? Gonna have to reach out to me on that because there's quite a few things. We would have to assess that more. I wouldn't be able to answer that just off the contact me if you're interested. Laverne Muhammad, thank you for coming in. Thank you, Trish May Allen. What can I take that is safe for me to help my bowel movement every day? The right type of foods, high fibrous foods. I mean, that and honestly is it. I mean, you got to get away from the constipating, get away from the meat, and eat high fibrous foods, and that problem will be solved. You won't be treating it, you'll be solving it. It has to be an everyday thing. Every time you eat food, you have to look at your plate and say, there's fiber in this that's going to help my GI system work correctly. Well, that's the only solution. Okay? Thank you, May Allen. Good question. Shaolin Soldier, thank you for asking good questions, my brother. Trish Smoot, fresh fruit, Helen. Trish Smoot also said, I eat apples and oranges regularly. Absolutely. Miss Tatiasha responding, Trish Smoot, right, yeah. So high fibrous foods, and she's very right when she says fruit. The most fibrous foods are going to be navy beans and your vegetables. That has the most fiber in it because there's large aspects of vegetables that we can't digest. There are some aspects of fruit that we can digest, but the larger aspect of the fruit we can digest and we can absorb. The larger aspect of the vegetables is fiber. We can't break down fiber. It goes through the body and acts like a broom, going and sweeping all that stuff out. So that is the solution. And plenty of water, absolutely. Zena Hayes, is black seed oil good to take? Yes, I believe black seed oil is good to take. But as I said earlier, black seed oil is made in India, it's made in Afghanistan, it's made over in those parts of the world. So it has to be processed, it has to be put in a canister, it has to be, all the stuff that it takes to be put in the canister that you get. So how long was it taken off the tree? How long ago was it harvested? How long has it been in a canister? How long did it take to get over here? You don't know. Everything has a phase and a process in it that deteriorates. Anything that's made in nature has a deterioration factor. So black seed oil, I have read a lot of information that's good, but I think that you ought to be just as confident in the garlic that you can grow in your backyard. Or, you see what I'm saying? I hope you all make us. I'm not trying to put anybody down or put black seed oil down. It's just that I don't believe in a God that would make something so great for me thousands of miles away. He makes everything in every region, in every country, in every part of the world. He makes great things for that area. And so we have to be satisfied with that. But to specifically ask your question, I think black seed oil has some benefits. If I was to have a black seed oil plant, a black seed plant, and I was to take some of those black seeds and make my own oil today, I believe it will be a lot more effective than when you go buy something from somebody or buy something out of the store, because I just finished saying you have no idea when that was harvested and yada, yada, yada. Makes sense. I don't need to repeat all of that. But yes, black seed oil has plenty benefits, but I would spend my money on some navy beans and some raw milk, some avocados, which have good oil, and flaxseed and other things that grow in this area, in my region, because I would think that that oil is just as good and is going to benefit my body, and I don't have to try to get it from another part of the world. So Zena Hayes, another good question. Sean Reynolds, thank you. Okay, so everybody, I appreciate you went a little bit over. Appreciate the wonderful questions. I appreciate the dialogue. I pray that I answered your questions to your satisfaction, gave you some more news that you can use. I hope this is another edition that shows you, explains to you, gives you the news that you can use, that you come to the conclusion that good health is hard work. And good health is also a part of faith. So until next time, please work hard. Remember that the Ultimate Wellness Group is here if you need us for any specific needs for your health. That's what we do. And we thank you for tuning in today. And God say the same. We'll see you next week. Same time, same channel, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, the Ultimate Wellness Group. Thank you all. Peace.